It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV probably brings you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, I am New Jersey's premier award winning journalist, top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And certainly, ladies and gentlemen, now more than ever, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media because my brand of honesty, quite frankly, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Once again, happy Tuesday, a special Tuesday night edition of Real Talk coming to you live here from the Real Talk studios in North Jersey. Folks, always remember, we love you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so tonight on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, and of course, wherever you get our podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud. Download Jersey First and take it with you wherever you go as it's getting a little bit warmer. Maybe you're going for that after work run, walking the dog, doing some groceries, checking out, I don't know, maybe the local park, whatever it is, a food festival, whatever it is, folks, you always have your smartphone with you. So why not take Jersey First with you wherever and whenever you go during these summer months? Again, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, click the subscribe button. You'll be automatically notified of all the great content brought to you by Jersey First TV on YouTube as well. And folks, I always say it every single week, and I mean it, how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's always Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative, hosted by the amazing Elizabeth Nader, premiere every Thursday. And brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo and Stephen Rumbola also premiere on Thursdays as well. And brand new episodes of Real Talk, normally in their Monday night scheduled time. Of course, check your local listings, and you'll see brand new episodes every single week right here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts because I have a lot to say and a lot of people to cook this week. And I got to tell you, man, it starts with the Jersey Journal. And quite frankly, I think a lot of their harsh criticism lately of a great interim president up here in North Jersey. That's right, folks. My good friend Andres Acebo, the interim president of New Jersey City University. I'll tell you why the Jersey Journal is being really unfair with him lately. A little bit more on that later during final thoughts. I'll also have a lot to say, ladies and gentlemen, about some maybe shady people in the New Jersey business community, such as John Sanchez, and some dubious endorsements he's giving during this U.S. Senate primary candidacy there with the Democrat Party. And again, folks, I'll have a lot to say about him and his endorsement of Patricia Campos Medina. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, hey, when you're always thinking about, hey, could it get any worse at Insider NJ? You always know Maxie will not disappoint with the latest delusional column. Kind of ironic to call people attending last Saturday in Wildwood, New Jersey, to be delusional. Folks, the real delusional person is Max Pizarro, but I'll cover more on him later. You don't want to miss out on all that during final thoughts. But first, ladies and gentlemen, obviously it is election season. We have a primary day just a couple of weeks away. And quite frankly, while a lot of eyes are on the Democrat primary, there's also a lot of eyes on the Republican primary. And the guy who recently did run obviously as a Republican during the primary season to attempt to win that primary seat. And folks, he's a guy that I have enormous amount of respect for. He's a former journalist with News 12 and a former U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican Party, folks. And apparently he's a big fan of the show. I got to tell you, I thought I was the most handsome face that runs a place. Nah. It's this guy, folks. It's Alex Zdan. Join us here on Real Talk. Alex, how are you?
Fernando, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me on, man.
No, man, pleasure is all mine. And again, I've always been a big fan of your brand, and obviously we'll sort of dive into that. And Alex, last October, like many others throughout the state of New Jersey, I mean, I was shocked, quite frankly, when News 12 made what I think was a very poor decision to engage in some cutbacks, and one of them was you. And I was very surprised because your show had so much traffic, to the best of my knowledge. You always asked very, very sort of thought-provoking questions. You always had very interesting dialogue. I thought it was the best show on News 12. So I was deeply disappointed. I'm sure you were too. Take us through those days, obviously, after, being dismissed from News 12. And certainly, what was your thought process about journalism and then maybe the rest of the year?
Well, I got to tell you, during that cutback period of News 12, the people who I really felt for were the people with families. My cameraman, some of the weathermen. I'm not married, I don't have kids, but to lay off people whose families were depending on them was to me a real heel move that News 12 took part in. But we move on. Life is life. We get some bends in the road. When God closes a door, he opens a window. I jumped through that window. I was just hopeful that window was on the first floor and not on the fifth floor, so that my fall down was a little bit more cushioned. But I did think about staying in journalism. I did think about other opportunities that I could have pursued, places I could have gone, whether it's New York or Philadelphia. But at that point, to me, the timing of it meant that that Senate race was still so undecided on our Republican side. And fairly quickly, I made the decision to explore a run for U.S. Senate. And I got to say, I don't regret doing that at all. I really enjoyed getting into politics. I want to stay in politics. I think this is something that for me is a calling and a mission, and I want to serve.
Listen, and it's very admirable as well. And I got to tell you, your launch video when you declared your candidacy for the United States Senate, I thought was one of the best launch videos I've ever seen, to go to the border, to remind New Jerseyans what a disaster Joe Biden has been with this border. Again, upon taking office in January of 2021, via executive order, he pretty much undid everything his predecessor had implemented that was working. And thus now the bill's coming due, Alex, and we're seeing the disaster at the border. We're seeing basically, and again, you'll take the high road. I don't have to. It's my show. So I'll sort of be a little more bombastic. But it almost seems like this invasion that's been going on since 2021, no supervision at the border. It just seems like the Biden administration is clueless about what to do about immigration reform. And I know that when your video launched, a lot of people reached out to me and said, holy cow, that was a brilliantly done video in the sense of really attacking an issue, not just like tangibly in a classroom or on a video, like being on the front lines. Bro, you can't get any more on the front lines than you were.
No, absolutely not. And the ironic thing was the place that I decided to go, Nogales, which is outside of Tucson, the border between Arizona and Mexico. The spot in the border wall, if you watch the video that I found where there was this 60-foot gap, it really paints a picture of the differences on border security between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. They were building that wall up until January 20th of 2021. January 19th, January 20th, President Trump leaves office, construction is suspended, and you're left with a massive 60-foot hole in the border wall that immigrants are streaming through, migrants are streaming through to this day. There is not a better visual representation of the differences between Trump border safety and Biden border chaos than taking a look at that piece of the border wall in Arizona. It's quite stark.
No, it really is. And folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 7:09 here on the East Coast. My guest this week here on a special Tuesday edition of Real Talk on Jersey First TV is former U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican Party and former journalist Alex Zdan, here live on Jersey First TV. Alex, having been to the border, and obviously that was an issue I think that resonates a lot in 2024. I think one of the biggest issues, it's not pronouns, it's not a lot of the left-wing nonsense or woke principles I think we see many in the left engage in. More on that later. But you talked about also just now, I mean, obviously running for Senate, it felt like a calling to you. And obviously, looking into your candidacy, what were some of the challenges you faced? I know you announced a little bit later at the end of 2023, again, not to play Monday morning quarterback, I think like anything else, you'd like to get started sooner like anything. But having said that, when you announced, what were some of the challenges, I think, for everyone at home that doesn't understand when you engage in something like this, when you are, again, filing petitions, looking to get on the ballot, what were some of the challenges that you faced early on during your campaign?
Well, your observation is fair. I definitely could have announced earlier. Like we talked about the timeline,
Sure, yeah,
12 and dismounting and all that kind of stuff. That absolutely played into it. So, we never know. A month earlier, 6 weeks earlier, maybe we'd come to a different outcome. But I have to say, I love our party. I love our people in our party. But when you are an outsider, your path to get to a nomination is different than if you're an insider. It simply is. That's the way it is. And as an outsider, I faced a more uphill climb than someone who's more of an insider would. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way the system is. But that was absolutely a factor. I also had to make sure that people got to know me. Politics is about relationships. I learned that firsthand. And it's not just the relationships I was able to cultivate with people as a journalist. Yes, There were people who trusted me and people who liked me. The people who've been in the political game get to cultivate deep relationships of trust. And that was something that I was combating because others on the other side, some of my opponents, had people supporting them, or they themselves had been in the game for such a long time. I mean, I remember I was at the Atlantic County Convention and got a good reception there. I did not win the Atlantic County Convention. Curtis Bashaw did. But I was talking to an individual who was very complimentary and very kind, but he supported Curtis, and he explained to me, I drove bread to Curtis's hotel 20 years ago. You can't compete with that, even if you had a year head start. That kind of a relationship.
Yeah, no, and what's interesting though, and again, when the news broke last October, obviously that, I mean, again, leaving News 12, and then obviously, you made the announcement a little bit, I'm not sure exactly when, but the point was, I have to tell you, I watched your show for a long time, Alex. I never got, again, this is how good you are in the sense of your show. You never really showed your political views. Again, like you weren't doing opinion journalism. Like anyone who watches this show knows I'm a conservative. Like I don't hide that. You, on the other hand, again, you're interviewing everybody, left, center, right, whatever. I never, ever could deduce where you leaned, what your party affiliation was. I never could guess. So when someone said to me, hey, by the way, Alex Zdan, the guy that used to be on News 12, he's running as a Republican. Alex, I got to tell you, I was like, wait, what? I never expected you to be conservative or Republican. And I think that's a testament to, again, how good you were as a journalist, because when you're interviewing people and reporting, you weren't, again, that's not your brand. That's not your bread and butter. So I got to give you, again, kudos for that. I have to give you your flowers, man, because sometimes journalists really show their bias early on. Again, if they're just doing straight reporting, that's one thing. Opinion journalism over here, that's different. You know where I'm coming from. I never had an idea where you were coming from. So it sort of begs the question, how long have you been a conservative? What led you to subscribe to conservative principles throughout your adult life?
Well, first of all, as a journalist, I viewed myself as an equal opportunity attack dog.
You were. I give you that. Yep, you were.
And so that was something that called me. That was professionalism, in my view. In my view, journalists should be objective. You can have your own views on your own time, vote the way you want to vote. I've been a conservative my entire life. And the reason that I'm a conservative is because I believe in the dignity of individual human freedom. I believe that to the extent possible, in a safe, ordered society, people should be able to make their own decisions, live their own lives, and do it without interference from the government. That's what I believe. I believe the government that governs best is the one that governs least. I am a small government conservative, and I am proud of that. I do believe in law and order. I support our police and I support our military. But I believe in individual rights for people in our society, and that as long as you don't hurt anybody, you should be able to live your life in a way that you want. And people who don't believe that can get out of your way. They can shut up about it.
Well, when you just said the government that governs least governs best, that's not the case here in Blue, New Jersey, Alex. No. And I really want to pick your brain. Again, I want to sort of push current events a little bit further down the interview, but I got to pick your brain here. As a former journalist, I mean, you want to talk about governing the least or the best in New Jersey. I mean, that 4 letters I'm going to give the audience right now. OPRA. Alex, Oprah. Again, I don't even know where to start with what happened these last few weeks. And if anyone thinks that the emperor is going to veto this bill, the Mets got a better chance of winning the World Series than the emperor vetoing this bill. He's going to leave this mess to the next governor in 2026. I almost feel that way. But your thoughts when you saw this sort of crusade to gut Oprah, and not just them. I mean, we know Democrats love to govern our lives at every moment in Trenton, but to see Republicans jumping on board, Alex, I can't tell you the level of disappointment I was feeling today.
Well, we have to give a shout out to those brave Republicans that did vote against it.
Yes.
And that the majority of the votes against it were from Republicans. So Trenton makes a lot of bad bills. I think the Oprah bill was a pretty bad one. Already our public records laws in New Jersey are not that great. Florida has better laws. Florida is actually the model. New Jersey is very opaque when it comes to public transparency. Look, I understand some of the arguments that people who advocated for this bill were making. I understand that small municipalities can be inundated with requests from citizens, from advocates, from lawyers. There was a lot about fees and attorneys. And in my experience, you have an attorney get into the public records debate only in the most extreme cases. We should leave those out of there. Some of the reforms were, I feel, needed, like giving an address, not using a bot to put in an Oprah. I think that's reasonable,
Sure.
But it's just part of the culture of Trenton. Democrat-dominated Trenton for the last 20 years has been less accountable, spent more, and we've got less back for our money. I think that it's sadly and unfortunately all part of a piece that Democratic control of this state has led to our state to be weakened. Fernando, what's the opposite of that statement? The government that governs most governs worse, and we haven't had a worse governor in my lifetime than Phil Murphy.
Listen, I'm with you. And I thought John Corzine was safe with that title, but John Corzine looks like a lightweight next to Phil. And what's really disappointing to me, I think, is that, and I have arguments with my colleagues in media or academia all the time about, well, New Jersey and the state that it's in. And, again, sort of, full disclosure, being a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, I love the state of Texas. And when I visited Texas and when I go to Florida, I mean, I look at those states the way they're governed. I mean, it's no coincidence. No state income tax, budget surpluses, governed, again, responsibly, not just gubernatorially, but also legislatively. And here in New Jersey, it's not people like myself, Alex, or you, conservatives, right, in ideology and policy and discussions. It's not us that are ruining New Jersey. It's not us that add to the gas tax. It's not us that bloat the budget as fat as, a kindergarten kid in a bakery. It's funny to me how anyone who's liberal or progressive will always sort of come down on conservatives like myself and say, well, people like Fernando's the problem. No, it's not. People like me don't have any majority in Trenton. If there were, I bet you that we'd have a much better fiscal management on our hands in the State House. Is that fair to say?
I would say that's fair. And I think that we have an opportunity in just about 18 short months to be able to take back both the Assembly, not the Senate. The Senate's not up till 2 years from now, but take back both the Assembly and the governorship. And I think that it's an opportunity that we have to acknowledge is going to be uphill, but an opportunity that we absolutely cannot pass up. Everybody, including me, was disappointed last year that there were not gains in the legislature, that we lost some seats, including those that we had won back in 2021. But every election is different. Every election is an opportunity. And with Phil Murphy raising taxes, increasing spending, raising tolls, raising NJ Transit fees, this is an opportunity for the Republicans to show the state that we should be trusted with the fiscal keys, that conservative, low spending governance is better. And I think that if we unite behind a solid message in 2025, we truly have an opportunity to take back Assembly seats and, God willing, flip the whole damn house.
I'm with you. Alex, now that you mentioned that, again, listen, I get into a lot of trouble here on this show with people at the NJGOP. Listen, I have zero faith in that organization. And I don't say this because I'm looking for a job or listen, as someone who ran for state assembly in 2011, I know about the ineptitude of the NJGOP. Having said that, you bring up last year's legislative elections and that disaster. And it's interesting where any big gains, whether it was Board of Ed elections or local municipal elections, mayoral elections that were won by Republicans, the NJGOP had nothing to do with it. And it's interesting to me that the races that they did have something to do with it, it failed miserably. And it almost makes it think, though, Alex, it's like, is it the messaging? Is it because, again, I'm the last one to ever play the race card because I don't like identity politics. But the census data tells us conclusively, New Jersey, like the country, isn't getting whiter, isn't getting blacker. It's getting browner with people like me. And it just seems like Republicans in New Jersey, the establishment Republicans, look at my community and see that there's a gold mine here to access. Again, Hispanics, Latinos, and Latinas collectively, we pretty much grew up pretty conservatively. Religion's a big component of our upbringing. We don't subscribe to all this woke nonsense, a lot of these left-wing policies. It just seems like for whatever reason, either the messenger is defective or the messaging is defective. And I think that next year, going to assembly races with maybe no line, because again, we don't know what's going to happen with Republicans, but you would think that the NJGOP would look at us as a gold mine because we have suffered a lot because of these Democrat policies, the plastic bag ban, the gas tax, raising tolls. I mean, again, it's hard to run a business in New Jersey. It's hard to send your kids to college in New Jersey. I don't understand why the NJGOP doesn't just scrap the operatives they have now and just get new people. DC, New York. Look what happens in New York. Look how they flip seats in Long Island and in Albany. It's amazing to me how Republicans still have not learned their lesson, though, Alex, in New Jersey.
Well, look, I'm not here to criticize the state GOP. I think that it's a very difficult thing. I ran statewide, and I know how difficult it is to get your message out across 21 counties. I know that firsthand. I think that your point is very well taken, though, in terms of outreach to the Hispanic community. I'll add another one for you there, too. I believe that we have a huge opportunity with the South Asian community, which is growing in places like Middlesex and in my home county of Mercer.
Yeah.
Folks in that community, like a lot of Hispanics, they love faith, they love family, they love traditional values. They are a huge opportunity for us as Republicans. There has been some outreach by the state GOP to the South Asian community. I think there should be more. I think the Hispanic community should be included in that 150%. I said this when I was running, that was what I was going to do. I was going to reach out to those communities. Also, to reach out to a group that I call Bill Maher Democrats. You know, we've heard about soccer moms, security moms, soccer dads, all those terms they use. I think that we have an opportunity to go to those sort of middle-aged, late 40s, early 50s, early 60s, former Democrats who are sick of this wokeness, who are sick of all the pronouns and all of the walking on eggshells about language, and want a party that just keeps them safe, cuts their taxes, and sends their kids to a good school. I think that we have an opportunity to infiltrate that community as well. And I think that that's what we should be doing. To your point about 2023, I've said this before, Fernando, it's not that we had a bad message, is that we had 5 or 6 good messages, and they sort of ran into one another.
Fair enough.
It was about whales and the plastic bags and taxes and abortion. And I think that sometimes we don't recognize that a person who may be very interested in the safety of marine mammals may not agree with some of the parents who are going into their school districts and demanding that that the schools be accountable to them for their kids. I think that there's some suspicion by the different categories of people that are tending to support our party. And I think that we need to slim down to 1 or 2 unified messages for 2025 if we want to have greater success in the State House.
Speaking of 2025, obviously, when you were running, you went to different county conventions, Alex, and that also brings up sort of like the ongoing discussion about the line. We know that with the Democrat Party, obviously, U.S. Representative Andy Kim took it to court, and he won. Now, subsequently, Republicans, obviously, whether it be in the ongoing Senate race between the 2 remaining candidates or for congressional districts, it seems like the line is still in place. Again, having run statewide and having gone to different county conventions, what were some of the hurdles that you can share with us about going to these county conventions and knowing that, well, you know, if you don't win the line, you know, you're at a big disadvantage, but, you know, you won some county conventions. So that was great. And I knew that, hey, Alex's message is going to resonate with people. But now that obviously, you know, you decide to drop out and there's 2 candidates left, I mean, do you look at the line moving forward as something that should be salvaged or should be done away with?
All I know is that you can't have something constitutional on one side and unconstitutional on the other side.
Absolutely.
That continued cognitive dissonance that we're seeing in our state is utterly baffling to me. I mean, we saw the judge in Burlington County that made a ruling from some of the Republicans who did sue to keep the office block ballot that the Burlington County clerk decided to put in. The judge said, yeah, you guys are right, but it's too late. So that was another mind-boggling thing. I think the line is going away. I think it will be going away. I think that you can't have 2 separate but equal systems. The judge, the federal judge, is pretty clear on that. The state judge has been pretty clear on that. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing, we'll see. I've heard good arguments on both sides, but I really feel that I want county committee people to still be involved in the process. Their voices matter. Their voices were valuable to me. Going out there and talking to them and competing for their support with my opponents made our campaign better. And that's why in an op-ed about a month ago, I proposed a statewide GOP convention. I think we need to do that. We need to bring everybody together, either virtually or hopefully in person, to a place like Atlantic City or Trenton in the center of the state, and get everyone to vote on statewide candidates like gubernatorial or senatorial candidates. Imagine how thrilling that would be next year, to truly have our party come together in a really wild, no holds barred governor's race and make an endorsement and also get support together for the assembly candidates, agree on messaging, have opportunities to talk to one another. I really think that would be a value add for our party.
No, absolutely. Listen, I think you hit right on the head right there. I think that convention would work wonders. I think that, listen, abolishing the line altogether, I think would weaken party chairs, county chairs, which I think is not a bad thing. I think in many instances, though, both Republican and Democrat, though, Alex, county chairs had enormous power. And I think that, weakening it is not the worst thing. Again, I think empowering county committee people, to your point, I think is more, I take that more seriously. And I think that weighs more for me as it pertains to like whether or not we still keep empowering county chairmen or chairwomen. I think it's more about county committee people and making sure that they have a voice and that they can vote honestly during a county convention where, let's be honest, sometimes county chairs can unduly influence county committee people. We saw it.
Every county is different.
Yeah.
Every county chair is different.
Sure.
Every system is a little bit different. So I saw them all. I got a chance to walk into all those rooms.
No, you certainly did. Having said that, your thoughts on the current GOP candidates for Senate right now, coming up on June 4th?
Sure.
Anybody you likes or dislikes? How do you see that campaign right now?
So after I just made the decision to drop out, I endorsed Curtis Bashaw.
Okay.
I think Curtis is the candidate who has the best chance of winning against Andy Kim in November. Curtis is a decent man. Curtis is a good man. Curtis and I never hated one another. We were very mindful of the fact that we were simply opponents. We weren't adversaries and we weren't enemies. Curtis is the man who can unite our party at the top of the ticket in November. That's why I'm supporting him. Any
concerns, though, that obviously the 45th president on Saturday made an endorsement of his opponent, Christine Serrano-Glasner. And what were your thoughts when you heard that endorsement? And do you think that ultimately that could put her over the top, or does that remain to be seen?
I think that obviously President Trump's endorsement is a factor in any race. Anyone who says it means nothing should have their head examined. However, we're not Alabama, and this is not 2018 when President Trump was at the White House and at the height of his powers. Some of our voters are going to absolutely go with what President Trump says, and some won't. Do I think that it's a factor in the race? Yes, I do. Do I think it makes the race closer? Yes, I do. Do I think Curtis is still the top of the heap and the odds-on favorite to win? Yes, I do. I think that because of his demonstrated strength statewide, his strength with the county lines, his strength with the county chairman, and his strength in fundraising, I still think that he has the best chance. He will be our nominee on June 4th. He has the best chance of being our nominee come June 4th. However, never sleep on Donald Trump. So sure. I think that endorsement was clearly a factor. And I have to tell you, Fernando, I had heard rumors about it. I knew that there was a back and forth going on, but it did come as a surprise to me to hear President Trump say that in such a public way at the rally in Wildwood.
It surprised me as well. I think a lot of journalists throughout New Jersey were like, wait a second, wow, the president's actually making a call here only a couple of weeks before the primary. Now, of course, this primary season in New Jersey is very interesting, right? Because the Senate seat, maybe 2 years ago wasn't on anyone's radar. That's not the case. And obviously, with the incumbent deciding not to run as a Democrat, obviously, may choose to run as an independent. More on that later. But Bob Menendez, his federal trial started yesterday in downtown Manhattan, Alex. And, listen, I've said it on the air. I just interviewed his son a couple weeks ago as he's running for re-election up here by me in Hudson County in the 8th Congressional District. I know him and his dad well. I've known him for a lot of years. Guy who respects me. I can call him. He can call me. And we can fundamentally disagree about a lot of things, which we do. But we're always gentlemen about it. And I've always had a high regard for Bob. But right now it looks pretty incriminating, a lot worse than the previous indictment that he had in 2016. But I've said this for weeks on other shows and on this show. I mean, all it takes is one juror, Alex, to believe that the FBI and the Department of Justice is out to get somebody. We're seeing that. I mean, it's not like, attorney generals or DAs aren't out to get, people on the other side of the aisle. All it takes is one juror. And I'm really curious, this week during jury selection, what's going to come of it. But all it takes is one juror to believe that, hey, maybe Bob didn't do this. And it's not, people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, that's not entirely off the wall. And should he beat this again? Now, again, he has to either be acquitted or a hung jury. He can't get convicted and run again. But if he runs as an independent, I think that could be immeasurable damage to someone like a Democrat who most likely is going to win the Democrat primary, like Andy Kim. I just want to get your thoughts on the entire Bob Menendez saga.
Well, clearly, you're absolutely right. This case is stronger than the case against him in 2017. I will also point out that he is facing the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York, who are known throughout the nation as barracudas.
Yeah,
they're the sharpest teeth you can find.
Yeah, they're tough.
And let's also remember that the jury that's going to be impaneled over the next few days are going to be New Yorkers. There's not going to be anybody from New Jersey on that jury like there was last time. I think that's going to be a factor. I think things are going to be different. Setting aside the fact that the prosecutor's questions apparently include, do you think someone from New Jersey is more likely to be a criminal? Thanks, guys. It's a heck of a hit to our reputation.
That was awful, bro.
It's not enough that we've got a senator who's got gold bars in his house. Now you got to do us dirty like that? Come on, guys. I think that Senator Menendez is going to definitely put on a spirited defense. You're right. It only takes one. He managed that hung jury last time. I think his legal team last time was a little bit more high flight. This legal team he has right now is a good one. And the evidence is still, it's a pretty high bar for him to clear. It's crystal clear that.
Well, I mean, listen, no pun intended, but it's sort of the high bar. But I will say this, that it just seems to me that, you look at this case and you look at, again, the perception that, many Americans, Alex, look at the FBI and how some might say it's been weaponized for years now, the DOJ. And, again, very much the way it seems that, the 45th president there's a witch hunt for him. It would almost seem some people aren't entirely wrong, though, Alex. Some people might say, listen, maybe there's a witch hunt against Bob Menendez. And I'm always about due process for everybody. It's not about party. It's not when it suits me. Either you believe in the Bill of Rights or you don't. Either you believe in the presumption of innocence or you don't. Just because someone's a Republican or Democrat, that's irrelevant to me. I think that Bob, just like President Trump, deserves that presumption of innocence. I just think that sometimes it's easy to sort of jump on someone when they're down. And let's be honest, in the establishment media in New Jersey, they have not hesitated once.
I'm not crying for Bob Menendez.
No, I feel you. I get you. I get you.
I'm not. I mean, if you look at the senator's career, let's set aside 2017. There have been corruption allegations against Senator Menendez for decades, for his entire political career, whether we talk about the building in Union City that got grants steered toward it, whether we talk about Dr. Solomon Melgen, whether we talked about allegations about the American Dream Mall development that came up 20 years ago. This cloud has always been around Senator Menendez. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Listen, I don't disagree. It's going to be a very interesting case, obviously, as it unravels during this spring and summer. But again, if either he's acquitted or there's another hung jury in his case, listen, he'll get signatures. He'll be on the ballot as an independent. Do you feel he's polling in the single digits right now, but do you think that he could cause some harm to Andy Kim, who, let's be honest, I mean, again, Larry Hammond, Patricia Campos Medina, I don't look at these two left-wingers as very serious candidates for different reasons. I look at Andy Kim, again, I don't like a lot of his politics, if any, but I can see he raises money. He's a guy that seems to be well-liked and likable. But the bottom line is, could someone like Bob Menendez running as an independent, could that harm Andy Kim? And could that maybe do the unthinkable and flip a seat red in the U.S. Senate for the first time since, I think, before you and I were even born, bro?
Right. Well, obviously, there's a bunch of different cartwheels and permutations that need to happen, but I'll grant you your hypothetical. If it's a three-way race in November with Curtis Bashaw, Andy Kim, and Bob Menendez, yes, the Senate seat is in play. How much Bob Menendez takes from Andy Kim, how many people, honest to goodness, want to vote for either an exonerated Menendez or a Menendez that came off a hung jury, I'm not exactly sure. It certainly could make the race interesting. I think there would be a difference, though, Fernando, if he's exonerated versus if it's a hung jury. If he essentially got off on a technicality, he's not in a very strong position there. But if he's exonerated, heck, who knows what could happen? And let me tell you my sort of thinking ahead, my cynical view. My cynical view, Fernando, is that he will be convicted, but the courts will throw it out on appeal because the federal courts, especially the Supreme Court, have consistently weakened federal corruption statutes. We've seen that in the McDonald case. We saw it in the Bridgegate case. I think, unfortunately, that Senator Menendez will be convicted, but he will not serve a day in prison because a higher court will throw this out.
Interesting. Oh, I'll tell you, folks, this is why I love having this guy on the air here tonight. My guest, former journalist and former U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican Party, Alex Zdan, is my guest here tonight on Real Talk. Alex, not a lot of competition in every congressional district, but one that is really getting a lot of attention is the 7th congressional district. And so the incumbent freshman, Tom Kean Jr., has quite a fight on his hands with former New Jersey Working Families Party executive director, Sue Altman, who, listen, I like Sue as a person, but I mean, you know, the internet doesn't forget, and neither do I. And when we start seeing social media posts about defunding the police and subscribing to a lot of left-wing woke principles and, you know, not acting accordingly in the state house, other things, I get that she's getting endorsements of someone like Mikey Sherrill and the Democrats, where maybe a year ago they weren't even looking at her race. Maybe, well, they are now. But again, I think Tom Kean is writing a pretty good campaign. He's raising money. And I think that at some point, you know, Sue's going to have to answer for a lot of these woke positions that right now, listen, she's not being held accountable to it. But whether or not they debate later this fall, we don't know. But I'm sure the ads are going to remind people that Sue Altman isn't exactly this center-left Democrat.
Well, I never denied the power of the Kean name, too.
Yeah.
The legacy of former Governor Kean and of Tom Kean Jr.'s 20 years in the Senate is powerful. Look, I remember the day after the election in 2022, looking at the numbers as to how then candidate Kean, Congressman-elect Kean at that point, had defeated then Congressman Tom Malinowski. This is going to come down to 10 or 15,000 votes in Sussex and Warren counties. It's that simple. Congressman Kean needs to get out that base in those red counties to vote for him, to vote for President Trump at the top of the ticket, to vote for whoever the Republican Senate nominee is. If he can mobilize those folks in those rural counties, those red rock-ribbed Republicans, he's going to be fine.
I'm with you on that. And I think that it's all about getting out the vote. It's about mobilizing the messaging. And at some point, again, you know, and it was interesting over the weekend when Mikey Sherrill has been so emphatic now for the last couple of weeks about Sue Altman. And I'm not sure if you saw that little jab that she took at the congressman where, well, the only reason that Tom Kean won was because of, you know, redistricting, and that's what helped him. Well, no offense, Mikey, you know, you need to have a little awareness there, sweetheart. Your district was redistricted too. That helps you win as well. So I think let's have some awareness here. And again, let's stop drinking the hypocrisy juice by the gallon. And I think that that's something that we have to look out for in that race. I don't see Mikey Sherrill maybe facing any stiff competition. I know who's running against her. I like him. Same thing with Josh Gottheimer. I think those races are pretty safe. Do you see any Republicans maybe flipping a seat in any of the congressional districts, Alex?
Well, I'm absolutely keeping an eye on my home district, Congressional District 3, Burlington, Mercer, and portions of Monmouth County. There is a contested fight going on there at the Democratic primary level right now because Congressman Kim's obviously not running for re-election. So we've got two complete losers, Assemblyman Herb Conaway and Assemblywoman Carol Murphy, running against a couple of nobodies. We're going to see who is going to be the winner there. And I feel that the Republican field, which still needs to be decided in that primary, has a shot to flip Congressional District 3. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help that nominee make sure that neither Carol Murphy nor Herb Conaway get anywhere near the U.S. Capitol unless they're on a guided tour.
It'd be great to see that district be red once again, for sure. And obviously, it brings us to sort of the main event of election 2024, Alex. And listen, you and I were both there. You got some nice color, as I can see there. I still have a tan from Saturday. I don't really care if it's 100,000, 80,000. It wasn't, you know, the 5,000 you will see for Joe Biden at a rally. And that's even, and I'm even being generous about 5,000 for Joe Biden. But the 45th president had quite a crowd come out this past Saturday in Wildwood. Again, I was so happy to see the local economy in Wildwood benefiting from the president's visit.
That's great.
We saw the president come out very forcefully, give a message of what his vision would be should he be reelected. Alex, this is my concern, and I'm going to be very transparent here. My concern is that the states that he lost in 2020, maybe some of the demographics that he lost, like single moms, suburban moms, who knows? I mean, he obviously Percentages increased with the Black community and Hispanic community, which is great. I think you might see a bump in that this year as well. But I just think that there's a concern about Trump exhaustion in the states that he needs to win that he lost. Again, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. I don't like to go by polls. I think polls are about as, useless as Uncle David Cruz, as I like to talk about him sometimes, on this show, I think jabs. But it just seems like I don't believe polls, Alex. And I'm concerned about the fact that, listen, conservatives, Republicans can't get giddy about polls. They got to get the vote. They got to get the vote. They got to register people. They got to make sure, listen, Democrats live and die by early voting. They push the vote by mail. That's not going anywhere. Republicans, listen, I left the vote on election day too. But Republicans have to embrace vote by mail. They have to push it. They have to push early voting. And states that Donald Trump lost in 2020 are ones that he has to try to win back. I just don't know. Again, there's some Trump exhaustion, though, Alex, and I hope I'm wrong. But again, based on inflation, based on fuel, based on an open border disaster, based on the fact that we're sending billions of dollars to a corrupt regime in Ukraine, based on the fact that we're seeing infrastructure still a disaster in this country, the fact that, everything's more expensive. I mean, a plethora of issues working against Joe Biden. It just seems like for some people, they're not going to care. There just seems to be this exhaustion about Donald Trump, and there shouldn't be. Stop being emotional. Vote logically. Joe Biden doesn't deserve another 4 years, 4 months, or 4 minutes.
No.
What argument can we make tonight?
No, I would agree with you that President Biden has shown that he's unfit to lead. I will tell you this. You can give me a gold standard poll in May, and I don't believe it because the election is in November. Polls are snapshots of a moment in time, even the good ones, even the ones that aren't done by people who try to rig those polls. So I think that we've got a lot of road ahead of us. The conventions haven't even happened yet. Yeah. The race really doesn't kick off until Labor Day. A lot of times people don't start paying attention until 2 weeks before, until October. We've got a lot of road ahead of us. But I would say the one thing that we should consider to be positive, one of the many things positive from that rally you and I were both at. Do you remember when President Trump asked how many people were from Pennsylvania? And the large response from that crowd. A swing state of Pennsylvania, those folks driving 2, 3, 4 hours to see President Trump in Wildwood, New Jersey. That's a good sign in Pennsylvania, in the Keystone State, which President Trump does need to win in order to get to 270 electoral votes and get over the hump in November.
I agree with you. I think, again, winning back those states that he won in 2016 is going to be crucial. Speaking about elections, obviously, over the past weekend, I ran into a lot of people, even yesterday at the launch of the New Jersey Policy Institute. A lot of people were saying, oh, man, you're going to have Zdan on? Dude, what's going on with him? I'm like, first of all, I'm not his press secretary. I don't keep his calendar. I don't know his schedule. Listen, tune in Tuesday at 7:05 and you'll find out. So sort of the burning question is, you dipped your toe in the water here during this primary race for the U.S. Senate. You're a natural speaker, Alex. I mean, again, you look good on camera. I know my mom is so giddy to have you on tonight. She was like, what time is that guy Alex on? I'm like, Mom, he's on at 7. Chill, relax, okay? Calm down. And my dad was like, all right, calm down, honey. But listen, you're a great speaker. You're very policy driven. You're a polished dude. I mean, you check off a lot of boxes. It almost begs the question, going into 2025, is there an elected office that Alex Zdan maybe has his eye on, or is it wait and see, or what can you share with us tonight, man?
Well, Fernando, I hear people who sort of do as you say, they dip their toe in the water and they come across and they say, oh, politics, this game, oh, I can't stand it. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I had a great time. I love this game. I love being involved. I love talking to people about solutions and policy and coming together and making our government work for us again instead of the other way around. I absolutely want to stay involved. I want to help candidates who are running for office this year. Stay tuned on the details from that. Okay. I am keeping my options open. I'm talking with people about the future. And I would say pretty safely that you will see my name on a ballot sometime soon in the near future.
Okay, well, folks, there you have it there. I mean, I can't get a better answer than that right there from Alex Zdan. Before I let you go, man, we've gotten to know Alex the journalist. We've gotten to know Alex the candidate, Alex the guy. So little lightning round here, and let's get to know Alex Zdan, the guy. Favorite baseball team?
Yankees.
Good man. Let's go Yankees. Favorite NFL team?
Giants.
Okay, Cowboys.
I know. Well, to each his own, Fernando.
I know.
I respect and love your freedom to
Yes,
root for a team that I can
absolutely.
stand.
As NBA.
I'm not really a basketball guy, man. I'll just say Knicks.
Okay, NHL.
Devils.
That was big fan as well. College basketball. Anybody?
Not a basketball guy, man. I hate to admit it, but I'm not.
Okay, fair enough. Favorite food.
Steak.
Okay, favorite
Extra
beverage.
rare.
Favorite alcoholic beverage of choice.
Tequila.
Okay, very nice. Okay, obviously, we talked about your upbringing and certainly, being really enamored with conservative politics, being a Republican. Favorite American president?
Theodore Roosevelt.
Interesting. Every single time I ask a Republican that or anyone who's conservative, they always say Ronald Reagan. You're the first person I can ever remember saying, hey, listen, that's a great choice, Teddy Roosevelt. Alex, before I let you go again, you've been a great guest, man. I've enjoyed our conversation. I love picking your brain. You have such a wealth of knowledge. And I know you just answered the question, but again, as we go into this election season, arguably the most important election of my adult life, I would argue, this November coming up for president, for Senate, for the House of Representatives. What do you want to tell fellow Republicans and conservatives as 2024 rolls on?
Unite. That's what I want to say. I want to say unite. We've got a primary coming up on June 4th, but on June 5th, we have to come together as a party and support the people who the voters have decided will carry our banner through to November. It is the only way that we will ever get anything done. The only way we'll turn this state and this country around is unite.
Actually, now that you just mentioned that, one last question, because now I was like, wow, he just triggered me. It begs the question because obviously when Republicans don't come out and vote, we saw what happened in 2021. We saw the worst governor in my lifetime, a guy who shut down the state longer than he had to, killed businesses. In some instances, some people might say he actually contributed to the death of people in New Jersey because of harsh COVID restrictions. We saw what an awful campaign he ran. His opponent only lost by 3 points. I was the only journalist calling that race that close because I felt, hey, people dislike Phil that much. Having said that, Jack at times ran a very uninspiring campaign, in my opinion. He's taking a third stab at it going into next year. We already have some declared candidates, State Senator John Bramnick. Obviously, we also have Jack Chiarelli. We're hearing whispers of maybe Bill Spadia, the NJ 101.5 FM radio host who coincidentally had President Trump on his show Friday. We're hearing other names like Mike Testa. Again, to your point about...
Don't forget Ed Durr.
Yeah, Ed Durr obviously just announced as well. I have this theory that based on, listen, if Curtis Bashaw wins the primary on June 4th, I think that empowers Mike Testa enormously. I mean, it's his guy, and depends how he does the rest of the year. And maybe that emboldens Mike Testa to dip his toe in the water and say, maybe I should run for governor on the for the Republican Party. How do you see this? I know it's still 18 months away, but how do you see this gubernatorial race on the Republican side, though, Alex?
Crowded. I think it's going to get very crowded, Fernando. You've got that open seat. You've got people like Senator Bramnick who think they've got the wind at their backs. I think that this is an opportunity for us to have a very open discussion about the future of our party, to let it all hang out, to let everybody go at it, hopefully in a respectful way, until the primary, and then unite behind that nominee, whoever it is, to make sure that we don't have a third Democratic term and essentially a third term of Phil Murphy, which could finish off our state for good, turn us into a blue state like Connecticut. I think we can't let that happen. It's important that we get behind whoever.
Think about it. Only 43% of registered Republicans voted in 2021. That was abysmal. And I think that's an indictment of like Republicans being fickle. Democrats, it's funny though, Alex, if there's a D next to your name, they'll hold their nose, they'll bite their tongue and say, I'll pull it out. Republicans don't do that. Republicans, if you don't check off every box, they're fickle and they stay home. We can't have that happen in 2025.
No, I would agree with you. We can't have that happen this year either. I think that there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. I look in the mirror and I try to think that I was a perfect candidate, but even I know that I wasn't a perfect candidate. You're not going to agree with someone 100% of the time, even if it's yourself, because you change your mind, you take in new information, you gain new life experiences. I think that you have to look for somebody whose basic principles of limited government, individual rights, low taxes, and personal safety that you agree with, and say, this person is who I would support. Think about it that way. Think about it as these choices, not between the perfect and the decent. It's between good and terrible, because the Democratic candidates in this state, the ones that are on the ballot this year for House, for Senate, the ones that will be on the ballot next year for the Assembly or the governorship, they are worse than any Republican we have running right now.
You said it perfectly. Alex, we got to do this more regularly, man. I know you're very busy, but we got to do this more regularly. I'll reach out. We'll throw some dates on the calendar there, and got to have you back on more regularly here on Jersey First TV. Folks, he is former journalist and former U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican Party. Alex Zdan joined us here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Alex, God bless you, man. Enjoy the rest of this month. Obviously, have a great Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk during the summer. We'll have you back on Real Talk via Jersey First TV.
Happy to. Thank you, Fernando.
Take care, brother. Have a good one. Folks, great episode there with Alex Zdan. Again, a wealth of information, folks. Let's be honest. You look at a guy that's worked in journalism as long as he has, having a good pulse of what's going on in New Jersey politics. That's who Alex Zdan is. And seeing him dip his toe into the water running as a candidate for the United States Senate, I mean, only empowers him more. Folks, let's think about sort of like all the boxes he has checked off in just less than a full calendar year. And I'll tell you, this is a guy who's going to have considerable influence in Republican politics for years to come, in my opinion, based on the fact that he can go out and campaign for people. They can go and campaign and help Republicans. And again, in a state where we are at such a disadvantage, again, there's a million more registered Democrats than Republicans. We see how they get the vote out. It's, Alex Zdan is a guy that's going to ultimately, I think, help candidates for the foreseeable future. So we're looking forward to having him back on here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you don't want to go anywhere. It's 7:53 on the East Coast, and you know what time it is. It's time for Final Thoughts. And boy, we got a triple main event right now. Folks, so you want to get some popcorn, sit down, and get ready to laugh, but get ready to think, because we have a lot of people to cook this week on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And speaking of people who I want to cook, do I want to cook, ladies and gentlemen? The Jersey Journal. Now, let me start off by saying this. A few weeks ago on my other program, Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe, which, by the way, folks, you can check out via the Hudson Media Group at their website. Check them out on YouTube. I, again, being a broadcast journalist and being a man of objectivity and integrity and decorum, I can give flowers to people when they deserve it. And recently at the New Jersey Press Association, the Jersey Journal, to their credit, won a plethora of awards for reporting, for certain investigative reporting that they've engaged in. So again, I'm going to give them their flowers, okay? You've done a good job to win awards. That's great. You've done a lot of very interesting and investigative pieces that have garnered attention and recognition. But this is where I'm going to take the Jersey Journal to task. And the reason I'm going to take him to task, and again, he doesn't need defending. He's a grown-ass man. He can do it himself. But tonight, I'm going to defend NJCU, New Jersey City University interim president Andres Acebo on this program. Shame on you, to the Jersey Journal, for picking on this guy. Because all Andres Acebo has done, folks, let's be honest, all he's done is come to the defense of NJCU. Okay? And I can't say it enough. Okay? Looking at, again, former President Sue Henderson, you see her right there, a woman whose poor judgment and bad fiscal decisions led almost to the bankruptcy and the closure of New Jersey City University. Now, for all of you that maybe aren't familiar, right? NJCU for many, many years was known as Jersey State College, a great local mid-sized college in Hudson County. And predominantly, I think people that went to Jersey State College went there for education. So for anyone that dated teachers like I did, I was married to a teacher, so I know. Okay. And someone that knows the curriculum at Jersey State College, it's where you went to get your educational degrees, certifications. And if you were looking to maybe move up and be an administrator, you'd go for your master's in administration and supervision. Now, how hard that major and curriculum is, that's debatable. It doesn't seem very difficult. But the point is that Jersey State College always had a wonderful reputation as an institution of learning. And obviously, with enrollment growing, more money being pumped into Jersey State College, no surprise, it would transition to New Jersey City University. It's had a lot of great presidents over the years. But again, when we look at Sue Henderson, we look at the reason that NJCU is in the mess that it's in is because of Sue Henderson. Okay? Now, what bothers me about the Jersey Journal specifically is the fact that, yeah, sure, okay, you can publish some articles in 2022 about her going away package when she had to step down that totals over $650,000, or that apparently the trustee board, along with Dr. Henderson, was slammed by a state report. I get all that. Okay. And again, as much as I want to give credit to Ron Zenlinger, the editor-in-chief, and Joshua Rosario and other people, Terry West at the Jersey Journal, listen, you guys do good work. But what you're not doing, especially on her way out, is you should have been crucifying Sue Henderson. Again, publishing 2 articles about her exit package and about the fiscal mess that she engaged in. I hate to break it to you guys, to Ron and Joshua specifically, but the problem is that you should have been doing it sooner, or you should have been holding NJCU more accountable much sooner. But now, and again, what's interesting too, and this is what really, really is funny to me, right, is looking at, certainly what went into filling that position after Sue Henderson. And again, folks, this is the problem. Okay, if you all remember, Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan, the disgrace of an education commissioner, again, as a commissioner of the Department of Education, who did an atrocious job during COVID, okay, who was absolute, folks, let's be honest, absolute garbage, okay? Horrendous record as the commissioner of education in New Jersey. And of course, she would step down. Now, this isn't speculation. I'm not engaging in hearsay. This is knowledge. This is public fact, okay? Governor Phil Murphy wasn't going to fire her or dismiss her or cut her legs from under her. Not going to do that. But yeah, but why not? Since she's stepping down and being forced to step down, let's be honest. Well, let's just stick her somewhere. Yeah, so she's a failure in Trenton with the Department of Education. Yeah, let's just stick her at NJCU. Well, to their credit, New Jersey City University chose not to hire McMillan, and rightfully so, because she would have been a disaster at NJCU, just like McMillan was a disaster at the Department of Education. Folks, that's not speculation. That's not slander. That's not nothing. That is fact. You talk to any insider in Trenton, they'll tell you McMillan was a joke. She was an abject failure in the Department of Education. Now, whoever made that decision to want to, force her on NJCU, that's a horrible decision. And thankfully, the Board of Trustees at NJCU chose to go in a different direction. And thank God that they did, because what they did ultimately was hire Andres Acebo as the interim president. And all Andres Acebo has done, again, you can check out Dr. McMillan there, that joke as commissioner of the Department of Education. Okay. I mean, folks, again, do some homework on her. They were going to basically just cast her off to NJCU because they didn't want to fire her. It's a bad optic to fire a black woman in Trenton. You know what I'm saying? Now, I could say it out loud because, again, I tell it like it is. But thankfully, the Board of Trustees chose not to fire. I'm sorry, not to hire, excuse me. And they hired Andres. And you would think after a horrendous job by Henderson, by what we saw by McMillan and Trenton, and then not wanting to hire her, thankfully, somehow Trenton, whether it's the governor's office or the chief of staff, they have some sort of hard-on for NJCU and for interim president Acebo. Because all Andres has done is lift NJCU out of bankruptcy, out of closure. Now, again, some decisions are going to be tough. You're not going to make everyone happy. If there's anybody, listen, if there's any people that I know, it's academics. And we all know how fickle and ego-driven they can be. When we have to make tough decisions, that's what an interim president has to do. Now, again, the Board of Trustees are going to come across that period when they have to either decide to keep Andres and take that interim title and keep him as the permanent president. He deserves it. What he doesn't deserve is the nonsense that he's getting from the Jersey Journal. Ron Zentlinger and Josh Rosario should be ashamed of themselves. Because you know what's really interesting? And again, I don't like to ever play identity politics. I don't ever like to play the race card. But I don't ever remember you being harsh on a white woman like Sue Henderson, like you're being with Andres Acebo. Oh, a Cuban guy? A brown guy? Y ese milagro. Really? You didn't want to hold a white woman to task, but you want to scrutinize every single move of a Cuban guy like Andres Acebo? Kind of makes you wonder about left-wingers like Ron Zentlinger and Joshua Rosario, right? Now, again, I'm not making accusations, but folks, if it smells like bullshit and it looks like bullshit, well, guess what, folks? It's going to be bullshit. And that's exactly what the Jersey Journal is engaging in with these character assassinations, these little subtle little jabs that they're having at the expense of Andres Acebo. Okay? Andres deserves better. Okay? All he's done night and day, losing sleep, traveling up and down the state, going to fundraisers, trying to raise money for NJCU is to help elevate it out of the fiscal mess that Sue Henderson put it in. And again, if Ron Zentlinger and Josh Rosario want to have a hard on because, oh, well, they're reporting on it lately, and that's not good enough. You should have been crucifying Sue Henderson every single day the minute that she stepped down as president of NJCU. But where were the character assassinations? Where was the grilling? Where was the cooking? Where? Nowhere. But Ron Zentlinger and Josh Rosario want to make you believe that what they're doing to Andres Acebo is honorable? It's not. Honorable is what Andres Acebo is. A guy who lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes New Jersey City University. And for the Jersey Journal, again, I'll give you your flowers. You win your awards. That's great. But you also have to be held accountable when you're being downright douchebags. And that's what you're being to Andres Acebo. He doesn't deserve it. Okay? You want to be so critical. Why weren't you critical of Sue Henderson? What, you can't criticize a white woman? Left-wingers do it all the time. But now you want to go after a brown guy like Andres Acebo? An honorable guy who went to Brown? Guy with a law degree who's doing everything to help elevate NJCU? Really? And this is how you want to treat him? Shame on the Jersey Journal. Shame on you guys, Ron Zentlinger and Josh. And I don't care. And by the way, don't think I don't hear the chisme that for some reason you don't like this show, that you don't think I'm a real journalist, or that somehow I'm toxic. Let me tell you something about Ron Zentlinger. And I got the receipts because I interview journalists all the time on this show. All right. For an editor of a news site, again, that wins awards, that supposedly has the pulse of the community. Well, Ron, the invitation's still there on this show. If you want to come on, that's fine. But don't give me some bullshit reason that, oh, well, I'm an editor of a news site. I don't like to give opinions. Yes, you do. Because what you're doing is giving an opinion about Andres Acebo. And we all know it's a bad one. And Josh Rosario is guilty of it too. Okay? Because all Andres is doing is trying to help elevate New Jersey City University. Can you say the same? Is Ron Zentlinger and Josh Rosario doing that? Yeah, I don't think so. So guess what, folks? When you want to think about reading local news, you know what? Maybe you might want to reconsider and not read the Jersey Journal. Because let's be honest, the same reason I don't read the Jersey Journal, well, it's the same reason I don't drink from the toilet bowl. Because that tastes pretty shitty too. Moving on, folks. Here. And again, I want to, get to a very interesting, dynamic here about John Sanchez. And folks, I think you want to, I think you may want to, and again, bear with me here, folks. Gonna pull up some film here, obviously, of Mr. Sanchez. And this is what's really interesting about John Sanchez, a guy who, folks, if you decide to, do some research on someone like John Sanchez, who, let's be honest, some shitty business practices, okay, that for whatever reason, okay, have come into question. Some sources have brought it to my attention. But now what's very interesting about this is the fact that, guess what? John Sanchez has pretty bad judgment, not just in business, but John Sanchez has pretty bad judgment when it comes to candidates. And for a guy that, well, I'll let you decide, folks, because let's be honest, I'm going to let you decide about how awful this guy sounds when he's talking.
Es la idea que yo siempre he llevado en mi mente, es poder hacer lo que se llama las cámaras de comercio unidas de New Jersey. Son 28 condados más o menos, y vamos a tener una cámara de comercio en cada condado, donde esa cámara va a ser menos, y vamos a tener una cámara de comercio en cada condado, donde esa cámara va a ser miembro de la organización de United Latino. Las cámaras de comercio unidas es poder, que yo siempre he llevado en mi mente, es poder hacer lo que se llama las cámaras de comercio unidas de New Jersey. Son 28 condados más o menos.
Folks, let me just translate that for you. John Sanchez wants you to believe that he's qualified to lead a chamber of commerce. And then to make it even funnier, John Sanchez is somehow empowered to start a Chambers United in New Jersey. And by the way, just to sort of translate, in all 28 counties in New Jersey. Oye, imbécil, there's something called Google. Maybe you've heard of it. But when you decide to Google the same, folks, don't you think that someone that wants to head up a chamber of commerce should know how many counties there are in the state that he's looking to run a chamber of commerce in? Oye, by the way, there's 21 counties, Mr. Sanchez. Okay, not 28, not 28. Okay, and again, obviously you could tell the woman next to him is as clueless as John. But what's even funnier, folks, about this, never mind, again, I don't want to pick on John too much. Okay, I don't want to pick on him that badly. Okay, but what bothers me about someone like John Sanchez, again, I'm just sort of looking at my notes here. What's really, really funny is that we know, again, folks, this is not slander, not defamation. Again, sources have told me that John is engaged in some pretty notorious business practices. You could believe, hey, I'll leave it out there for however you want to take that. Does he pay his taxes? Does he not pay his taxes? I don't know. We'll see. But there's some whispers out there about not knowing how to run a chamber of commerce correctly. And to compound the problem, now he feels that his endorsement of a know-nothing academic like Patricia Campos Medina somehow means something. Again, sources sent me this picture of a recent appearance of good old Patty when she attended an event in Essex County. And again, I'm going to read you the photo here. Again, I know it's a little small there for you to read. Okay, but I'm going to read you what it says there. Again, this is from Patty's own social media. Such a great gathering of entrepreneurs at the Essex County Latino American Chamber of Commerce celebration. Thank you, John Sanchez, for your warm welcome and support. Vote June 4th and follow my campaign, Patricia Campos Medina, for U.S. Senate. Folks, I have talked about this religiously on this program about Patricia Campos Medina. Okay? Listen, I'll give you your flowers. As a hardworking immigrant, you came here, made a laugh of yourself. No problem, Patricia. I'll give you your flowers. But that's where their flowers end. Okay? Now, being the son of immigrants myself, I understand the immigrant experience, how hard it is to learn a new language, to leave your homeland, to learn tangible skills, to have a career, to be able to retire. My parents, based on their work ethic, their incredible work ethic, which again, trickled down to me, right? I learned that from them. So again, I'm always going to be very conscious of the immigrant experience. But what I'm not going to be conscious of is the blatant enabling that you do, Patricia, of illegal immigrants in this country. Okay? You have done nothing but help to contribute to the harm of New Jersey by advocating for driver licenses for illegals, for our tax dollars going into the state budget that creates a legal fund to help illegals fight deportation. That's where our tax dollars are going towards, again, under the Murphy administration. And you've been a proud champion of that, among other left-wing woke causes. Okay? For someone who has many degrees as Patricia Campos Medina, you would think that somewhere along the line she took biology somewhere. And she would know how many genders there are. No, not Patricia. That's a subject she probably passed over during registration day. Same thing with economics. It would seem to me for someone like her working at Cornell, right, at an institute about public policy and economics, you would think that someone who is as left and progressive as Patricia would have better economic ideas. No, Patricia thinks we print money. Patricia's one of those progressives that think, oh, why not? Let's just have universal basic income. And let's give illegals everything. Let's give them health insurance. Let's give them a living wage. This is the type of woke nonsense that Patricia Campos Medina subscribes to. To say nothing of the fact that sources have told me that now her husband, Bob Medina, who, by the way, who I know is no fan of this show, right? Apparently, check this out. What a surprise this will come to everybody. But apparently, he's no longer driving Patricia to these campaign events because he's getting into arguments with people at events. Let me think. Oh, that's right. Little Bobby decided to start an argument with yours truly at the League of Municipalities in 2022, which he embarrassed himself and subsequently had himself escorted out of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce event at the League of Municipalities. Because again, Bobby tiene un genio. Bobby tiene un temperamento que tú sabes, Bobby got to check that a little bit, man. Aren't you like in your mid to late 80s? Didn't you just turn 85? That's not really good for your heart, bro. You got to be careful. I'm looking out for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? But folks, is this endorsement supposed to move the needle? Someone like John Sanchez, who, folks, just do a little homework on him. Pretty shady guy, folks. Pretty shady guy. And this is the type of people that Patricia Campos Medina openly tries to solicit support from. Folks, it tells you a lot about Patricia Campos Medina and her judgment or lack thereof, but more so about the fact of who John Sanchez decides to endorse. Listen, folks, I know there are progressives and liberals out there. That's fine. I don't care for their policies. I think we've seen in New Jersey what liberal policies and progressive and woke policies have done to destroy New Jersey. My guest tonight, Alex Zdan, said it perfectly. Okay? To say nothing of the fact that this guy, again, it could be an honest mistake, but it probably isn't. Do some homework on John Sanchez, folks. He's not a guy that's very trustworthy. Not in business, and definitely whoever he endorses during this campaign season. And last but not least, folks, speaking of clowns, we've talked about some clowns already. Let's talk about one of my favorite clowns in New Jersey, and that is Max Pizarro. Yes, folks. Max Pizarro, the editor of Insider NJ, one of the more useless news sites in New Jersey. Okay. Now, I have to tell you, and again, I mean, folks, you're going to have to bear with me here because I mean, I'm looking at some of these columns here, folks. And so Maxie over the weekend, right? First of all, he's lying to you because he would make you think that after reading this column, right, that somehow Max Pizarro was in Wildwood this past Saturday for President Trump's rally. Okay, I have some color there. You can check out my social media. The files are way too big to play on this program, folks. It was impossible to download and have them playing here. But folks, you can check out my social media, my Instagram. You can see all the videos there. You can see, again, it wasn't like 5,000 people that you would see at a Joe Biden rally. Even if maybe that's a miracle if Joe Biden can get 5,000. Okay, but we saw 50,000 plus people in Wildwood openly cheering the 45th president, hopefully soon to be the 47th president. But Max Pizarro, of course, will lead you to believe that he left his house in Brick, New Jersey. Mira, es una mentira. We know Max Pizarro didn't leave his house for anything. So he watched this speech on TV. And of course, he sat there eating whatever he's eating at home, whenever he's not riding horses, or maybe horses are riding him. I don't know. He's my least favorite cowboy. But again, that's a discussion for another day. But he starts his column with Donald Trump brought his cruel, weird, hateful, indicted, egomaniacal, name-dropping TV personality brand to Wildwood, New Jersey, apparently trying to take advantage of perennial New Jersey dysfunction while entertaining his own public delusion. Yeah, I wonder why there is New Jersey dysfunction. Yeah, maybe by a lot of the left-leaning legislators and Democrats in Trenton that you never call out, Max. More on that later. Right? And let's just sort of go here, obviously, as he's, I mean, folks, it was one of the longer columns. Again, folks, if you ever need a cure for insomnia, again, just, read Max's columns. Right? You can see here, obviously, looking at what he said here. Now, what's interesting about Max's column, and again, I'm not going to read you all of it here because it's downright like infuriating. First of all, we all know Max is lying because Max didn't step out of his house. Okay. We all know Max was comfortably at home watching the rally. I'm sure he probably sent Fred Snowflake. Poor Fred had to trek all the way down from Morris County down to Wildwood to report on this. And again, I don't mind Fred Snowflake. I don't like his politics, but at least he's out in the field. He's out at least doing work. Right? But folks, this is what bothers me about Max. Again, just look at the first headline. And again, folks, if you want to get some comedy here, check out the comment section. Again, listen, Max isn't stupid. He knows exactly what this sort of column is going to get him. I'm going to read it again to you. Okay. Donald Trump brought his cruel, weird, hateful, indicted, egomaniacal, name-dropping TV personality brand to Wildwood, apparently trying to take advantage of perennial New Jersey dysfunction while entertaining his own public delusion. No, Max, the one who's delusional is you. Because again, what you've done, and again, I don't really care how this sounds, and I'm not really interested in making peace with anybody, much less you, Max, but this is the facts. What you're doing daily is stealing money, but from the Graham family. Because you would think that, hey, the Graham family employs you to engage in responsible journalism, and you're not doing that. So what you're doing is you're stealing money, right? By just sitting at home, maybe leaving your house twice, 3 times a year. 4 maybe. Maybe once every financial quarter you'll leave. Okay? No one's going to believe, Max, that you were there in Wildwood on Saturday. Okay? I know I was there. Again, folks, check out my social media. You can see the nice color on my face there. Again, worth going to, getting press credentials. Again, folks, as credentialed press, that's what I am. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of the left-wing Mickey Mouse journalists in New Jersey. Again, they include Max Pizarro. They include Jay Lassiter. They include Alan Steinberg, Bob, the rest of the clowns at Insider NJ. Or Tommy Boy, Tom Moran with NJ.com. Or Little Terry, Terrence McDonald with the Jersey Monitor. Or Uncle Chucky, Charles Style with NorthJersey.com and the Bergen Record. Okay? Or Matt Friedman when he's not getting high and, caressing the only pussy in the house that cares to be near him. Oh, by the way, those are his cats, by the way. Okay? Those are the people that will look at Fernando Uribe and say, no, that's not real journalism. Or even, of course, last but not least, good old Uncle Dave, who has the audacity, once again, to think that he is the end-all be-all about who's a journalist. Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I was a journalist. Okay? I'm a journalist yesterday. I'm a journalist today. I'll be a journalist tomorrow. So going to President Trump's event, going to the press table and saying, hey, I'm Fernando Uribe from Jersey First TV. I'm here for my press credentials. And when I get them and when I'm walking around with other esteemed press, by the way, I didn't see any other press in that box from New Jersey other than some photographer from NJ.com, some great people I met from One America News, from the Washington Examiner. Okay? A lot of great networking I did. Even Johnny Belisario, the man that works with Jesse Waters on Fox News. Again, I was able to be in the presence of great journalists like those and collaborate and network and talk about what went on Saturday because I was there. I can't say the same for other people, especially Max Pizarro. And this is what's really interesting about Max, because Max wants to talk about dysfunctional New Jersey. The reason New Jersey is dysfunctional, Maxine, is because you have failed to hold all the woke politicians, all the progressives, all the far left politicians in Trenton that, again, gutted Oprah, by the way. It wasn't Republicans who led the charge to gut Oprah. It was Democrats in Trenton. When the gas tax goes up, okay, when tolls go up, when the state budget gets fatter than some kindergartner at a bakery, or the latest Victoria's Secret models that are modeling lingerie. Okay? Those are the policies you should be rallying against, not President Trump, who, by the way, during the 4 years of Donald Trump, by the way, no wars, a booming economy, reasonable fuel, a border that was being enforced. But again, what does Max care? Max never leaves his house. So there's a whole invasion of illegals walking down the street in Brick, New Jersey. Max isn't going to know. He's not leaving his house. But when you look at why there's dysfunction in New Jersey, it's not because of intellectuals like myself who are conservatives. It's because of left-leaning ones. Can't even call them intellectuals. But not once will Max Pizarro ever call them out. Because Max Pizarro is too busy virtue signaling. And I get it, you don't like the 45th president, soon to be the 47th president. Max, I hate to burst your bubble. Okay. But even you can defend Joe Biden. And I know you'll try. I know that later on in the summer and the fall, you'll write some glorious column about how Joe Biden deserves another 4 years. No, Maxie, he doesn't deserve another 4 years, another 4 months, another 4 weeks, another 4 days, another 4 minutes, another 4 seconds. But Maxie Pizarro will tell you that he does. And that, folks, is the epitome of someone being delusional. It's not the 45th president. It's Max Pizarro. But for a guy making over $100,000 a year at home, scratching his ass, riding horses or horses riding him, or playing dress up as a cowboy. Folks, have you ever seen the least masculine cowboy in the history of television? Folks, it's this guy right here. Okay? The idea that, folks, Max Pizarro and Insider NJ think that they're still relevant in New Jersey media, that's delusional. When everybody knows the only responsible news site in New Jersey is the New Jersey Globe. My good friend and a fan of this show, its editor, Dick Waston. But again, Max Pizarro would like you to believe that there was nobody in attendance. It was a relatively empty rally. Okay? That rally looked about as packed as the Insider NJ party every year at the League of Municipalities. By the way, thank you for the open bar. I look forward to drinking at your open bar again this November. The only difference is, Max, President Trump can get people to show up to their events for free. You want anyone to show up for you? You got to pay money for that, Max. And it's not even your money. It's the Graham family that you're mooching off of, who you're stealing money off of. Because let's be honest, you're stealing money because you're not doing reputable journalism. And you're still getting paid over $100,000 to be editor-in-chief of a news site that nobody takes seriously. It's hard to take you seriously, Max. Never mind your little costumes and dress up. Forget about that. I'm not even going to go for the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go for the high-hanging fruit. And the fact that your columns continue to be garbage. That you continue to endorse other garbage columns from women like Jay Lassiter. From sleepyhead Alan Steinberg, who, by the way, it's way past his bedtime. Or Bob Hennelly, another insufferable socialist. Or contributors you've had over the years at Insider. I don't have to name them. We all know who they are. Other useless left-wingers like John Van Vliet. But this is who Max Pizarro thinks has the pulse of New Jersey politics. That they know what New Jerseyans are thinking. No, Max, I think you saw over 50,000 New Jerseyans voicing their displeasure for the disaster that is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for the disaster that is blue policies in New Jersey. It doesn't bother you because you're making over $100,000 a year. But the working class people, people who work, like actual people, right, who work, not like you, they're feeling the crunch in their pockets and they're feeling it every single day. We'll talk about delusional. It's Max Pizarro, who's really more disconnected from reality than anything else. And it shows with all the garbage columns that he oversees at Insider NJ. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, once again, I want to thank my guest tonight, former journalist at News 12 and former U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican Party, Alex Zdan. A great interview with him today. And certainly, folks, what a wealth of information Alex is. Look forward to having him back on later on this summer. Folks, don't forget to always make sure you like Jersey First TV and Real Talk with Fernando Uribe-May on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter And of course, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to subscribe to all our great content on YouTube. Again, click the subscribe button. You'll be automatically notified of all the amazing shows we have, courtesy of Jersey First TV. And of course, also download our podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I say it every week. I say it to my boss yesterday, and I'll continue saying it to all of you every single week on this program. Okay? How proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. It's Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday night on Jersey First TV, of course, hosted by my good friend, the amazing Elizabeth Nader, and brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap premiere every Thursday night as well, courtesy of AJ Malillo and Steve Rumble. Of course, folks, brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air live every Monday. We'll be back next week in our regularly scheduled time on Monday nights. Check your local listings for start times. And of course, folks, I can't say enough how really grateful we all are because of the great traffic here, courtesy of all of you that tune in every single week. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it is always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, and certainly I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State Media because my level of honesty is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, folks. It's Fernando Uribe. Hope you all had a wonderful Mother's Day. As you can see behind me, let's go Knicks. Not the best of weekends for the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference and the reigning Atlantic Division champions. But folks, I just got to tell you, it's something to behold here. Let's get that Game 5 win at the Garden. Let's beat the Pacers and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Hopefully next Monday I'll get to brag a little bit about the New York Knicks. So, folks, enjoy the rest of your week. And again, folks, we appreciate you always tuning in here and supporting Jersey First TV because, hey, we're the ones working hard and fighting hard for you every single day, really, with all the awful establishment media here in New Jersey. We're standing up and speaking up for you every single day. So we appreciate, folks. Please party responsibly. Always remember, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. We appreciate you stopping by. Always remember, stay classy, everyone.